Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going completely apeshit and saying, but Dan, what is going on here? Why is there a C flat? It's a B. It's what bud? What the fuck? What are you doing? Welcome to the channel, or thank you very much for returning if you've been here before. I'm Dan Weiss, creator and owner of MFile Music Theory and Songwriting. We are all about helping you gain control of your creative passion and power so you can become the musician you are supposed to be, making the most impact with your music by creating the music that you hear in your head. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on that little bell notification so you don't miss my super amazing, ultimate, life-changing content when it comes out. Now, let's get to the video. So, that brings us to the theory portion of the show. We're going to talk about a really important subject that a lot of people have been asking about. And it's an interesting one, it's an important one, and I got to admit, I like making the slides for these. It's a lot of work, but it's kind of fun, and the more that I make, the more easy it will be to take these different things from each episode and use them in other situations. So the nerd in me is like, I'm building up a database. So let's get to it. We have the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths. So we've talked about scale degrees in a major scale, how we set this system up. There's 8 notes. You give a number to each of these notes. That kind of identifies the interval that it is, the distance it is from the root to that specific note. So we know that obviously the 1 and the 8, the root or the octave, those set up the key center. And the 5 helps to kind of act as a foundation. They can lean on this 5, and this is, boom, concrete, platform to stand on. Everything else is able to move pretty fluidly around this because this is a strong interval foundation. 1 to 5 to the octave. So let's talk about this interval of a perfect fifth. It has the name perfect. The way that 2 notes spaced this fifth interval apart, the way their sound vibrates together fits. So the way these notes work together in this interval also fits. So if we start with a C, and we play a G, which is a perfect fifth away, that's a solid interval. Now, an interesting thing that happens is when you play a G and go up to a C. Because the previous instance was like a 1 to 5, but now we have, instead of C to G, we have G to C. Same notes, but coming from a different angle. And that creates a perfect fourth. So it's weird that whether you're going up or down, or which note you're coming from, you're hitting the same notes, but you're getting a different interval. So they're closely related and in a way interchangeable, a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. So let's take a little trip. And we're going to travel along the keyboard, only moving by an interval of a perfect fifth. So we start with C. We hop up a fifth to G. D is next. Then we get to A, E, B, F sharp, and C sharp. Now, what's really interesting, if you don't already know, is that when we're determining the key signatures, like what key a song is in, this right here is all the keys that have sharps in them. C has 0, G has 1, D has 2 sharps, A has 3, E has 4, B has 5, F sharp has 6, and C sharp has all 7 notes sharp. So how interesting is this that we start on C, we move up a fifth, and it's the order of sharps, sharp keys. We move up, we raise one more note in the key. And here's another mind-blowing fact. The next note that gets raised is also determined by this order. How about that? So now let's clear off the keyboard. Bye-bye notes. Now let's talk about a perfect fourth interval. And let's take a little trip along the keyboard, moving in an interval of a perfect fourth. So we've got C, then F, then B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and finally C flat. Same thing as with moving with perfect fifths, but when you move a perfect fourth away, these are all of the keys that have flats in them. All of the key signatures with flats. Starting with C, we have 0 flats. F has 1, B flat has 2, E flat has 3, A flat has 4, D flat has 5, G flat has 6, and C flat has 7 flats. All the notes are flat. So this is the order of flat keys, and also the order in which notes are affected when you lower them. So we go from moving in a perfect fifth, and that sets up this system for raising one note at a time by cycling around in these key signatures. And the same thing happens when we move in a fourth. We're lowering one note at a time with these key signatures. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going completely apeshit and saying, but Dan, what is going on here? Why is there a C flat? It's a B. What, bud? What the fuck? What are you doing? And you're right, that is a really ridiculous thing. So let's focus on this for a second. Why is this happening? Something really cruel in music theory. It's called enharmonic spelling, where some notes are more than one note. Just because how things are written, you don't have to worry too much about it. We know that the black keys on a piano are sharp if a note is being raised, or flat if a note is being lowered. So if we look at B and C flat, that's the same note, right? So if we look at F sharp, a fifth away from B, or G flat, which is a fifth down from C flat, that's the same note. That's the same key on the keyboard there. And same thing with C sharp and D flat. That's the same note on the same key on the keyboard. So what if we did a little experiment? If we move in perfect fifths this way, we get to B, which we've already determined is the same as C flat. And now we're moving perfect fifths this way. C flat, G flat, D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and back to C. How interesting. Same thing with perfect fourths. If we move from C to F on and on and on, we get to D flat. That's the same note as C sharp. Same key on the keyboard. So we go all the way up C to F to B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, which is also C sharp. So then C sharp to F sharp to B to E to A to D to G, all the way back to C, moving in an interval of a perfect fourth. Pretty wild. It's almost like it's cyclical, like it was some kind of a circle. Boom. We have, starting from C, moving by intervals of a perfect fifth around this shiny yellow circle. Sorry, red. I was looking at the letters. Let's throw those perfect fourths on there, starting from C, going the other direction. And some of those notes, as we just talked about, they overlap. So if you start from C and go clockwise around in an interval of a fifth, you can hit every single note, every single key, and start back at C again. You've completed a full cycle. Same thing if you move from C, going to F to B flat, in intervals of a fourth, you go all the way around, you get to D flat. It's the same as C sharp, F sharp, B, E, A, D, G. You're back at C. So this is an insane concept from music theory. The way that you choose a solid, stable interval that is so foundational to making a scale work and making a chord solid. And when you take that interval and you move in a set mathematical pattern, it sets up the whole system for how we use tonal harmony. This determines what notes are played in which keys, which is insane. So knowing that it's such a strong thing, you can use this as chord movement as well for progressions. There are so many chord progressions that use the cycle of fifths or the cycle of fourths. And if you were to go and play these notes, you would recognize it immediately. Pachelbel's canon in D, everybody knows that one. So a big part of how chord progressions work is based on the cycle of fifths and the cycle of fourths. And a really interesting thing is that if you play around with this a little bit, you can move from all 12 keys and get back where you started. Jazz songs do it all the time. That's why this is one of the first lessons that they really, try and ingrain in your head in music school. Because you see that cycle coming, you know the pattern. So you don't have to think about it as 30 chords.
because you know where it's going, and it becomes one long phrase that you can manipulate. So the cycle of fourths is really, really crazy, really, really interesting, and memorize it. Do yourself a favor and study the circle of fifths, circle of fourths. Get that under your nose. I don't know where you put it, but this will help you in remembering so many aspects of music. You'd be doing yourself a disservice not learning about it now that you know it exists.
If you want to learn more about any of the topics discussed on today's episode, or if you'd like to expand your horizons so you can make the most amount of impact with your music, please be sure to check us out at mfile.ca.